The world we live in is so different from our idea of it that much of what has been discovered by modern science remains unexplained. Some facets of reality are so out of line with the format of our stereotypes that scientists prefer not to focus on these shocking facts. Academics suggest that in addition to our universe, there are other worlds similar to ours, or on the contrary, completely different. All these separate physical realities exist independently of us and our three-dimensional space. Moreover, there is an idea that other universes are not divided into bubble spaces, but exist in parallel and together with our world. Other worlds may be near you. In fact, the multiverse, the existence of which physicists have begun to think about in recent years, may not be somewhere far away billions of light years from us, but right here at every point in our space. There may be many other realities in your room, each of which is formed by its own atoms involved in its own set of fundamental physical interactions. Our world may turn out to be only a small fragment of matter, existing separately in a common multiverse. Imagine yourself. The probability that we see the world as it is zero. The world you perceive is just a screen behind which it is convenient to live. The real world, or the truth, is so complex that evolution itself has tried to make sure that we never find out what lies behind the partition. But the queen of all sciences, mathematics, can still lift the veil of secrets and explain our existence from a new incredible point of view. Evolution doesn't care about our reality. It is not the smartest and knowing the truth who survives, but the fittest. For example, imagine a person who has discovered the world as it is, all the mysteries of existence. While he was thinking and reflecting on this, his girlfriend would have had children with another long time ago. Who doesn't care what the world looks like? The main thing is to start the reproduction process. He would have grown old while explaining to her how the world really works. Our brain had the largest mass 20,000 years ago, and since then its mass has continued to fall at the speed of a meteorite. We have lost 10% of our brain volume. That is, the size of a tennis ball. That's what a piece has disappeared from our brain in the last 20,000 years. Evolution does not care about intelligence, about big brains, and even more so it does not care about truth. She only cares about one thing: to keep you alive long enough for you to breed. And the fact is that 20,000 years ago we lived in small groups and had to do everything to survive. Brilliant abilities. If there were no such abilities, then death. And now we have agriculture and an appropriate social structure. And now we no longer need to be able to do everything in the world to survive. If I need something, I will turn to some craftsman and calmly survive, even if I have an IQ of 70. 20,000 years ago, I would have been dead. It turns out that the brain is a costly business, and if it is not needed much, it will lose weight. And he will lose weight. And if things continue at the same pace, then in 20,000 years our brain will shrink to the size it had 500,000 years ago, to the level of Homo erectus. That's what evolution is doing to us. In simple words, evolution itself does not want us to see the world for real. The fact is that reality is very complex from any point of view, so that evolution, that people are forever simplifying it. We invented God not because he exists, but because it is more convenient for us to think so from the point of view of survival. Some people simply do not see the meaning of their existence without a supernatural finger from heaven, which supposedly monitors and guides their destinies and created them for a great purpose. Space and time do not exist, but you perceive them. The three-dimensional space in which you perceive, for example, a room, is just a desktop. Physical objects are nothing more than icons on your desktop, and the whole point is not to show the truth, but to hide it so that you don't have to deal with all these difficulties. Just nice-looking icons that help our kind of creatures do something that helps them survive. Mathematicians have long guessed how to understand that our world is actually two-dimensional. According to theory, it is simple, just like a three-computer game or a painting depicting space. In the game, you move around in a space that takes place on a flat screen. At the same time, you don't think about how this reality works. You don't care that there are LEDs and chips inside the monitor. You don't know how the processor processes information in the form of ones and zeros to give you a picture. You're just playing a game. Even the game icon itself on the desktop is not on it. This is just a path prescribed from the root system of the computer, which gives you a simple image so that you do not think about how everything works there and quickly get the desired result. That's how it is with life. All we see and hear are just images that are more complex than they really are. But we don't need to know this, because our species simply wouldn't survive. For example, if you are reading text on a computer, you see black letters on a white screen. But if you increase your display, you will see a lot of colorful pixels, far from black and not white. You don't need to know the truth of what this text really is. You just live and consume information that is conveniently provided for you. Our world is two-dimensional. Quantum physics, using mathematical formulas, came to the conclusion that this is the case. That is, experiments with the same observed photons show that they do not care at what distance they are, because distance is an illusion. When their properties change, they immediately change their properties, affecting each other no matter how far they are from each other. This change happens instantly, even if there is a distance of 1 billion light-years between them. This contradicts the speed of light, which is absolute in the universe. But if you imagine that the world is two-dimensional, then everything falls into place, since speed is not needed here. Today, charlatans have adopted this experience and are creating their magic, allegedly saying that we control the universe and can change reality once the observer's experience shows that photons understand when they are looked at and when they are not. But only those who do not understand the essence of the experience will believe this. All these phenomena can only happen if our world is flat. We are a flat canvas on which there is no distance, and everyone is together at the same time. But how can this be? You ask. After all, there is a moon, galaxies that are hundreds of billions of light-years away from us, and then there are us that live far from each other. But think of a 3D game or a painting by any artist. How is the distance depicted there? Any shape is drawn either larger or smaller depending on the object of observation. For example, if you want to show that a person is far from home, then you just draw him more and the house is smaller. You just need to observe all the proportions to create the illusion of space. This is taught in art schools and in 3D modeling classes, and that's where the flight of thought begins. Physicists will say that everything falls into place if we live in a two-dimensional world. Theologians will say that this is where God appears to be sitting on the other side of a monitor or canvas and looking at us in real 3D space. And writers will come up with hundreds of great stories that are based on this picture of the world. For example, that we live in a computer game and one day the great administrator gave one of the characters to see the real world, and then his adventure began. For example, here you are, like all ordinary people, get up early in the morning, eat your sandwich or scrambled eggs, take the children to kindergarten or go to work. It doesn't matter. What do we all care if the world is not what we think it is? Many people live and die without realizing it at all. They will not read a single book, but simply live their lives and disappear from the canvas when their turn comes. If evolution hides from us what life really is, then 100% it does not tell us what death is. There is life, and death too. We all know that, but they are not what we imagine them to be. There are hundreds of books, including the scriptures, that try to show us a different picture of the world. We understand why people want to believe in heaven, hell, or the transmigration of souls. All these are amazing ideas that describe being a little beyond the ordinary existence. But here you need to understand that a person's imagination is boundless. Absolutely anyone can get a subjective spiritual experience if they believe very strongly in their idea. For example, I will invent for myself that our life is only the first stage of the existence of the world, and after death we move from a two-dimensional to a three-dimensional world, and before our life we lived in a one-dimensional one, where there was neither the past nor the future, but only a point in the overall picture of the world that someday he will become a thinking being. You don't remember what happened to you before you were born, do you? You were just a sketch on a canvas. Being defines being. All that remains is to find confirmation of your version. It turns out that black holes exist in two-dimensional space, but in fact they are real 3D objects. How can this be? A black hole absorbs both space-time and matter. And imagine a hole pierced in a piece of paper or a painting. Where does it lead? That's right, into a whole hitherto unknown world that was hidden behind the canvas. Only we can't look into it like through the holes in a painting. We can convince ourselves of absolutely any fantasy we make up, because the world is so multifaceted and large that there is a place for the laws of physics, divine revelations, and fantastic films and books in it. All of them open up new unexplored worlds, which are actually on a flat canvas, a painting hanging over the fireplace of some higher being. But that's a completely different story.